Hi, and thank you for trusting me to walk with you through these important updates. My goal today isn't to create fear, it's to bring clarity. I know that when you see headlines like this one, the first reaction can be a wave of worry, especially if you're a green card holder or if someone you love holds permanent residence in the United States. That's completely understandable. And as always, this is not legal advice. I'm not a government official or an attorney. I'm simply here to help you understand information in a simple, calm, and supportive way so you don't feel lost or overwhelmed. Today we're going to talk about green card expiration, what happens when you don't renew your card on time, the current processing environment in February 2026, and most importantly, I want you to hear the truth about deportation risk clearly and calmly. Before we go any further, I want to address what this headline is suggesting. The claim that green card holders will be deported if their cards aren't renewed by March 1st, 2026, is creating unnecessary panic. This is not how permanent residency law works in the United States. I know that's a bold statement to make right at the beginning, but I need you to hear it clearly. Your lawful permanent resident status, the actual legal status you hold, is not the same thing as the physical green card in your wallet. The card is proof of your status. The card is the document. But your status as a lawful permanent resident does not disappear the moment that card expires. I'm going to explain this carefully throughout our time together today, and by the end, my hope is that you'll feel informed rather than frightened. Let me start with the most important truth about expired green cards. If you are a lawful permanent resident and your 10-year green card expires, you do not lose your permanent resident status. You remain a permanent resident of the United States. The expiration date printed on your card is simply the date when that piece of plastic, that physical document, is no longer valid as proof. But the immigration status itself, your right to live and work in the United States permanently, continues. This is established law. It's been this way for decades. An expired card does not make you deportable on its own. I want you to hear that again. An expired green card alone does not trigger deportation proceedings. Deportation happens for serious violations of immigration law. Things like committing certain crimes, committing fraud to obtain your green card, abandoning your residence by staying outside the United States for too long without proper documentation, or violating other terms of your permanent resident status. Simply having an expired card is not one of those violations. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. You might be saying, but I heard that if you don't carry valid proof of your status, there can be consequences. And that's true to a point. According to the Immigration and Nationality Act, permanent residents over the age of 18 are technically required to carry valid proof of their status. If you fail to do so, it's considered a minor violation, and in theory, it could result in a small fine, up to $100, or in extremely rare cases, up to 30 days of detention. But I want you to understand how this works in reality. First, this provision is almost never enforced for people who have simply allowed their card to expire while waiting for a renewal. The government has discretion in enforcement, and they do not go around randomly checking people's green cards and deporting them because the card expired. That is not how the system operates. Second, if you have filed Form I-90 to renew your green card, you receive a receipt notice from USCIS. That receipt notice, combined with your expired card, serves as valid proof of your status. You can carry both documents together, and together they prove you remain a lawful permanent resident. In fact, as of September 2024, USCIS extended the automatic validity period for green cards to 36 months from the expiration date when you properly file Form I-90. That means if your card expires on March 15th, 2026, and you file your renewal application, your expired card plus your receipt notice together remain valid for 3 full years from that March 15th date. You can use these documents for employment verification. You can use them when traveling, although I'll talk more about travel in a moment. The point is, the system has built-in protections precisely because USCIS knows that processing takes time. They know people are waiting. They're not punishing you for their own delays. Now let's talk about the different types of green cards, because this is where some confusion enters the conversation. There are 2 main types of green cards. The first is the unconditional 10-year green card. This is what most permanent residents have. If you have a 10-year green card, you renew it by filing Form I-90. The second type is the conditional 2-year green card. This is typically issued to people who obtain their green card through marriage to a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, or through certain investment-based immigration categories. If you have a conditional green card, the rules are different, and I want to be very clear about this difference because it matters. With a conditional green card, you don't simply renew the card. You have to file to remove the conditions. For marriage-based green cards, you file Form I-751. For investment-based green cards, you file Form I-829. And here's what's critical. You must file this form within the 90-day window before your 2-year card expires. If you miss this deadline and you fail to file Form I-751 or I-829, your conditional permanent resident status actually does terminate. And yes, if your conditional status terminates because you didn't file on time, you could be placed in removal proceedings. This is one of the few situations where failure to act on your green card can directly lead to deportation risk. So if you have a conditional green card, please listen carefully. Do not confuse this with a 10-year card. Mark your calendar. Set multiple reminders. File within that 90-day window. If you've already missed the deadline, you need to file a late I-751 or I-829 as soon as possible. And you should strongly consider consulting with an immigration attorney because late filings require a showing of good cause, and you want to make sure you handle this correctly. But for those of you with 10-year green cards, which is the vast majority of permanent residents, missing your renewal deadline is not the same thing. It creates inconvenience, it creates complications, but it does not automatically put you in deportation proceedings. I know that can sting. I know it feels frustrating to have an expired card and to worry about what that means, but the reality is that your status remains intact. What you lose is easy proof of that status, and that's where the practical problems come in. Let me talk about what actually happens when your 10-year green card expires and you haven't renewed it yet. The biggest issue is proving your status to others. Employers use Form I-9 to verify work authorization. If you're starting a new job and your green card is expired, your employer may not accept it as proof unless you also have that receipt notice showing you've filed for renewal. Some employers don't understand the rules. They see an expired date and they panic. That can delay your start date. It can create awkward conversations. It can even cost you job opportunities if an employer is unwilling to navigate the extra steps. That's why renewing on time matters. Similarly, you may run into problems renewing your driver's license. Many states require proof of legal status, and an expired green card without the receipt notice can cause delays at the DMV. You might need to make an appointment at a USCIS office to get what's called an I-551 stamp in your passport, which serves as temporary proof of status for 6 months to a year. That stamp costs time and effort. It's another hoop to jump through during an already stressful process. Traveling internationally with an expired green card is risky. If you leave the United States with an expired card, you may have difficulty boarding your return flight. Airlines often check documents before you fly, and they may not let you board with an expired card, even if you're a permanent resident. If you do make it out of the country, re-entering the United States can be complicated. Customs and Border Protection officers at the port of entry have discretion, and while they should let you in if they can verify your status, you may face additional questioning, delays, and stress. Some permanent residents have been denied boarding or subjected to secondary inspection simply because their card was expired. Again, this doesn't mean you've lost your status. It means the expired card creates problems in proving that status to people who need to see current documentation. Now let's talk about what's happening in February 2026 with USCIS and green card processing. I want to give you a realistic picture of the current environment so you know what to expect if you're in the renewal process or if you're about to start it. As of January 2026, the processing time for Form I-90, which is the green card renewal application, is approximately 10 months. Some service centers are processing faster, others are slower, but 10 months is the average. That means if you file your renewal today, you should expect to wait nearly a year before you receive your new card. USCIS is facing a record backlog. As of mid-2025, there were over 11 million pending immigration cases across all categories. The agency is understaffed, under-resourced, and dealing with competing priorities. The current administration has implemented stricter vetting procedures, enhanced background checks, and more intensive fraud prevention measures. All of this takes time. And while USCIS has made efforts to digitize processing and reduce some timelines, green card renewals remain slow. This is why filing early is so important. USCIS recommends that you file Form I-90 at least 6 months before your card expires. That gives you a cushion. If your card is expiring in September, you should file in March. If it's expiring in December, file in June. Don't wait until the last minute. And if your card has already expired, don't panic, but do act. File as soon as you can. The sooner you file, the sooner you get that receipt notice, and the sooner the clock starts on your automatic extension. I want to address something else that I know is on many people's minds right now. The current political environment. The Trump administration, which began its second term in January 2025, has implemented a series of changes to immigration policy. Some of these changes affect green card applicants. Some affect people already holding green cards. And I want to be honest with you about what's happening without creating unnecessary fear. There have been new travel restrictions. As of January 2026, immigrant visa processing has been paused for 75 countries due to public charge concerns. This affects people applying for green cards from abroad through consular processing. It does not affect people already in the United States adjusting status through USCIS. And critically, it does not affect people who already hold green cards and are simply renewing them. If you are a permanent resident renewing your card, this pause does not apply to you. USCIS has specifically stated that applications to replace or renew permanent resident cards are exceptions to the hold. Your renewal should continue processing normally. There has also been increased scrutiny on applications. The public charge rule, which has existed for decades, is being enforced more aggressively. Immigration officers are conducting deeper financial background checks. They're reviewing tax records more carefully. They're cross-checking information across databases. For green card renewals, this primarily affects people who have conditional cards or who are adjusting status for the first time. If you're simply renewing an existing 10-year card, the review process is more straightforward. You're proving your identity, you're confirming your address, you're submitting updated biometrics. You're not going through the same level of scrutiny as someone applying for a green card for the first time. That said, there have been cases where USCIS has initiated reviews of approved green cards for people from certain countries on the travel ban list, especially for those who entered the United States after January 2021. If you're from one of those countries, you should be aware that your status could be re-reviewed. This doesn't mean you will lose your green card. It means the government may look at your case again to verify that everything was done correctly when you were originally approved. If you're in this situation and you receive a notice from USCIS requesting additional information or scheduling an interview, it's important to respond promptly and accurately. If you're uncertain about how to respond, consulting with an immigration attorney can bring reassurance and help you navigate the process correctly. I also want to talk about what's happening with work permits, because many green card applicants waiting for their cases to be approved rely on employment authorization documents, or EADs, while they wait. In December 2025, USCIS reduced the maximum validity period for EADs from 5 years to 18 months. That means people waiting for green card decisions now have to renew their work permits almost 3 times as often. This creates more paperwork, more fees, more potential gaps in employment authorization. It's frustrating. It adds to the burden. If you're in adjustment of status and relying on an EAD, my advice is to file for renewal as early as possible. USCIS allows you to file up to 180 days before your current EAD expires. Don't wait. File early. Prepare your supporting documents in advance. Budget for the fees. Keep copies of everything you submit. Now let's return to the central question. Can you be deported because of an expired green card? I've already told you the answer for 10-year cards. No, you cannot be deported simply because your card expired. But I want to walk through the scenarios where deportation could happen so you understand the real risks versus the imagined ones. Deportation, which is officially called removal, happens when the government believes you have violated immigration law in a serious way. The grounds for deportability are listed in the Immigration and Nationality Act, and they include things like committing certain crimes, particularly crimes involving moral turpitude, aggravated felonies, drug offenses, domestic violence, or firearms violations. They include immigration fraud, meaning you lied on your application or provided false documents to get your green card. They include abandoning your permanent residence by staying outside the United States for extended periods without proper re-entry documentation. They include failing to remove conditions on a conditional green card. They include violating the terms of your status in other specific ways. Notice what's not on that list. Having an expired card. Simply allowing your 10-year green card to expire while you wait for a renewal does not make you removable. The government does not target people for deportation because their card expired. Now, if you're arrested for a crime and during that process officers discover your card is expired, that could complicate things. They might question your status. They might hold you longer while they verify your identity. But the expired card itself is not the reason for removal. The crime would be. Similarly, if you're traveling and trying to re-enter the United States, an expired card might cause you to be sent to secondary inspection, where they'll ask more questions and verify your status. But again, they're not going to deport you for having an expired card if you're otherwise admissible and you haven't committed any other violations. The real risk with an expired card is that it makes it harder for you to prove you're a permanent resident in situations where that proof matters. And if you can't prove it quickly, you might face detention while they sort things out. That's stressful. That's frightening. That's why renewing on time is so important. But detention while they verify your status is different from deportation because your status terminated. I know this distinction might feel small when you're sitting in a holding room at the airport or when an employer is questioning your work authorization, but legally, it matters. And understanding the difference can help you stay calm and advocate for yourself. Another area that often creates confusion is the difference between not renewing your card and abandoning your permanent residence. If you live outside the United States for a long time, you can be found to have abandoned your status. Generally, if you're outside the U.S. for more than 1 year without a re-entry permit, immigration officers may question whether you intended to maintain permanent residence. If you're outside for more than 2 years, it becomes even more difficult to argue you maintained your residence. In those cases, when you try to return, you may be denied entry, not because your card expired, but because the government believes you abandoned your status. This is different from simply having an expired card. If you're living in the United States, working here, paying taxes here, your family is here, and your card happens to expire while you're waiting for USCIS to process your renewal, you have not abandoned anything. You're still here. You're still maintaining your residence. The expired card is a documentation issue, not a status issue. Let me take a moment to talk about what it feels like to go through this process. I know the waiting room moments can feel endless. You check your case status online. You refresh your email. You hear different stories from friends, from family, from people in online forums. Some people got their renewal in 6 months. Others have been waiting 2 years. Some were asked for more documents. Others sailed through. It's hard not to compare your timeline to everyone else's. It's hard not to feel anxious when weeks turn into months and you still haven't heard anything. Some days feel hopeful, other days feel heavy, and that's completely human. Behind every case number, there is a real human being, someone with a job, a family, responsibilities, dreams, someone who just wants clarity, someone who deserves to know where they stand. If you're waiting for your renewal and you're feeling that weight, I want you to know that your emotions are valid. Immigration is not just paperwork. It's your life. It's your ability to work, to travel, to prove who you are when someone asks. It's tied to your sense of security and belonging. So yes, the wait is hard. And yes, it's okay to feel frustrated by a system that moves slowly and doesn't always communicate clearly. What I can tell you is that filing your renewal and getting that receipt notice puts you in a protected status. You have proof that you've done what you're supposed to do. You've followed the rules. You've submitted the application. You've paid the fee. Now you're waiting for the government to do their part. And while you wait, you can continue living your life. You can work. You can travel if you have the right documents. You can make plans. The expired card creates inconvenience, but it does not erase your status. Let me talk about a few practical steps you can take right now if you're in this situation. If your green card is expired or expiring soon, file Form I-90 as soon as possible. You can file online through the USCIS website, which is often faster than mailing a paper application. Make sure you fill out the form completely and accurately. Double-check every field. Upload clear copies of your current green card, your passport if you have one, and any other required documents. Pay the fee, which as of early 2026 is $540, including the biometrics fee. Once you submit your application, USCIS will send you a receipt notice, Form I-797. This is your golden ticket while you wait. Keep multiple copies. Keep one with you. Keep one at home. Keep a digital copy on your phone. This receipt notice, combined with your expired card, is your proof of status for the next 36 months. If you need to travel internationally and your card is expired, consider getting an I-551 stamp in your passport before you go. You can schedule an appointment at a USCIS office through their website. Bring your expired card, your receipt notice, your passport, and any other identification. The officer will place a stamp in your passport that serves as temporary proof of your permanent resident status. This stamp is recognized by airlines and by Customs and Border Protection. It makes travel much smoother. If you're starting a new job, inform your employer that you filed for renewal and show them your receipt notice. Many employers are familiar with this process. especially larger companies with HR departments that handle immigration regularly. If your employer seems confused, you can direct them to the USCIS website, which has information for employers about accepting receipt notices as proof of continued work authorization. If you've moved recently, make sure USCIS has your current address. You're required to update your address within 10 days of moving. You can do this online. If USCIS sends mail to an old address and you don't receive it, that can delay your case or even result in a denial if they think you've abandoned your application. Keep checking your case status online. USCIS has a case status tool where you can enter your receipt number and see updates. Most of the time, it will just say your case is being processed, but occasionally you'll see updates like we scheduled your biometrics appointment or we sent you a request for more information. Check it once a week or so. Not obsessively, because that will drive you to distraction, but regularly enough that you catch important updates. If USCIS sends you a request for evidence, or RFE, respond quickly and completely. RFEs usually ask for additional documents or clarification on something in your application. The notice will give you a deadline, typically 30 or 60 days. Don't ignore it. Gather the requested documents. If you're not sure what they're asking for, consider consulting with an immigration attorney. Respond before the deadline. Send it by certified mail so you have proof of delivery, or upload it through the USCIS online portal if that option is available. Missing an RFE deadline can result in a denial. If your case is taking longer than the posted processing times, you have options. You can file a case inquiry with USCIS after your case exceeds the normal processing time for your service center. You can also contact your elected representatives, your U.S. Senator or representative, and ask their office to inquire on your behalf. Congressional inquiries don't guarantee faster processing, but they can sometimes help move a stalled case forward or get you information about why there's a delay. Now, I want to address something I hear often. People ask, should I just apply for citizenship instead of renewing my green card? And the answer is, it depends. If you're eligible for citizenship, meaning you've been a permanent resident for at least 5 years, or 3 years if you're married to a U.S. citizen, and you meet the other requirements like continuous residence and physical presence, then yes, applying for citizenship is an option. When you file Form N-400, your naturalization application, it automatically extends your green card validity for 24 months, just like filing Form I-90 does. And if you become a U.S. citizen, you never have to worry about green card renewals again. You have a passport, you have citizenship. It's permanent in a different way. But citizenship is not right for everyone. Some people aren't yet eligible. Some people want to maintain citizenship in their home country, and their country doesn't allow dual citizenship. Some people simply aren't ready for that step. And that's okay. Renewing your green card is a perfectly valid choice. It keeps your permanent residence active. It gives you another 10 years before you have to think about it again. There's no shame in renewing rather than naturalizing. It's a personal decision based on your circumstances, your goals, and your comfort level. Before we move toward the end of our time together, I want to talk about staying informed during this period of policy changes. Immigration law under any administration can shift quickly. New executive orders, new regulations, new guidance memos from USCIS or other agencies. It can feel overwhelming to keep track of it all. My advice is to rely on official sources when you can. The USCIS website, the Department of State website, announcements from immigration advocacy organizations that have legal expertise. Be cautious about information you see on social media or hear from friends. Not because people are trying to mislead you, but because immigration is complicated, and what applies to one person's situation might not apply to yours. Rumors spread quickly, fear spreads quickly, but often the reality is less dramatic than the headlines suggest. If you're feeling uncertain about your specific situation, especially if you have complications like a criminal record, extended time outside the US, or if you're from one of the countries affected by current travel restrictions, it may be worth consulting with an immigration attorney. I know legal help can be expensive. I know not everyone has access to affordable representation, but many organizations offer low-cost or pro bono services for people who qualify. Local legal aid societies, non-profit immigration clinics, law school immigration clinics, bar association referral services. Even a 1-hour consultation can give you clarity and peace of mind about your path forward. Let me return to the headline that brought you here today. The claim that green card holders will be deported if their cards aren't renewed by March 1st, 2026. I hope by now you can see why this claim is misleading. There is no March 1st deadline from the government. There's no policy that says, if your card expires after a certain date, you will be deported. What exists is the long-standing requirement that permanent residents keep their green cards current, and the long-standing reality that an expired card creates practical problems even though it doesn't terminate your status. What also exists is a challenging processing environment where applications are taking longer, scrutiny is higher, and communication from the government is sometimes unclear. But none of that translates to automatic deportation for expired cards. The truth is simpler and less frightening than the headline suggests. If you have a 10-year green card and it expires, your permanent resident status continues. You should renew it. You should file Form I-90. You should do it as early as possible, ideally 6 months before expiration. But if your card is already expired, it's not too late. File now. Get your receipt notice. Carry it with your expired card. That combination proves your status for up to 36 months while you wait. If you have a conditional 2-year green card, the rules are stricter. You must file to remove conditions within the 90-day window before expiration. Missing that deadline can put you at risk of losing your status. So if you have a conditional card, take that deadline seriously. For everyone else, the message is this: stay calm, stay informed, take action, but don't panic. The system is slow, the system is frustrating, but the system is not designed to trap you or trick you. If you follow the rules, file your applications, respond to requests, maintain your residence in the United States, you are doing what you're supposed to do. Your permanent residence is secure. Your right to be here is protected. The expired card is a piece of plastic that needs to be updated. It's not the end of your immigration journey. I know this topic can sound frightening when you first hear about it in a dramatic headline. I know many viewers write to me asking about this, worried about their own situations or their family members. That's why I wanted to take the time today to explain clearly, calmly, and thoroughly what the law actually says and what the reality actually is. You deserve truthful, respectful information. You deserve to understand what's happening without being manipulated by fear. Your story matters. Your presence in the United States matters. And the fact that you're here watching this, seeking information, trying to understand your rights and your responsibilities, that tells me you care. You're engaged. You're doing your best to navigate a complicated system. Across many categories, USCIS continues to work through backlogs, process applications, and issue approvals. Family petitions are moving forward. Employment-based cases are being decided. Naturalization ceremonies are happening every day. Yes, the timelines are long. Yes, the process is frustrating, but it's not frozen. It's not impossible. People are succeeding. Cases are being approved. Green cards are being renewed, and yours can be too. If today's update helped you feel more informed or more calm, I'm truly glad. That's what I hope for every time we spend this time together. I want you to walk away with clarity instead of confusion, with understanding instead of panic, with a sense of what you can control and what steps you can take even when the system feels overwhelming. Stay informed. Stay truthful with yourself about your situation. Stay patient with yourself through the waiting. These processes take time, and that's not your fault. You're doing what you need to do. You're following the rules. You're maintaining your status. That matters. If you'd like to receive more daily updates about US immigration, visas, citizenship, and travel, you're welcome to stay connected here. I share information as things develop, always with the goal of bringing clarity and calm rather than fear. I don't have all the answers. I can't predict individual outcomes, but I can help you understand what's happening, what it means, and what you can do about it. And sometimes that understanding is the most powerful tool you have. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I appreciate your trust and your presence. I know these topics aren't always easy to talk about, and I'm grateful you chose to be here and to learn. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, and stay hopeful. The path forward exists. You just have to take it one step at a time.